If you go on to enjoy the video, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. It does really help me out a lot. And if you're into Funko Pops, I've just started a brand new channel dedicated to them. The link for that can be found in the description. And beat the random lottery that is FIFA points by buying the coins direct from u7buy.com. Use code TVM at checkout for a 5% discount, or if you're a new customer, get 8% discount. The link is down below. What is going on, guys? TVM here. Welcome back to a brand new video, and a video that took me quite a long time to compile. We are going to talk about the most meta generational players. Basically, I'm going to go back through previous FIFAs, back from FIFA 12, roughly, to FIFA 20, and have a look at the most overused, overpowered meta players. We're going to start off with our only addition from FIFA 12, Jose Antonio Reyes. May he rest in peace, of course. This was probably his best card ever. 88 pace, 87 dribbling. He was at Atletico. I think he moved to Sevilla the same season, and he has had a flashback in a previous FIFA, I believe, but still, what a card that was. Moving on to FIFA 13 with Dede, or Dede the centre-back, as he was known quite fondly for some reason. He moved club, but it was like not really that important within FIFA. It was important in real life, but not in FIFA. But he was overused. I mean, everybody had him and Santana as their two centre-backs. Santana, again, like Dede, has two clubs, Schalke and Dortmund that season. I remember using the Schalke version. I think he was at Schalke first, then moved to Dortmund, correct me if I'm wrong. Was it the other way around? I can't remember. Anyway, let's talk about another Brazilian. No face because I couldn't find him. This is FIFA 12 and FIFA 13 combined, really. Nilmar of Villarreal. I think he moved to Villarreal from another club that I remember using him at, but still, very overused player. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, some of you may or may not agree with this one, but I used him a lot. I used to get a lot of flack for using him as well because he was what was then called a sweaty player. I used to get judged a lot, actually, for scoring certain types of goals because they were considered sweaty. Aubameyang, just fantastic. Alexandre Pato, again, this is from FIFA 13, but could be all the way up until like FIFA 16 maybe, because he was used a lot during those FIFAs, and of course when he went to Chelsea, linked with a certain someone who may or may not be in this list as well. Moving on to another Brazilian, there's Brazilians everywhere. Robinho, when he was at AC Milan. 5-star skills, 91 dribbling, 88 pace. Again, like a lot of these cards up until this point, you could put him in your team and leave him in there till the end of the game. He was that good. Let's move on to FIFA 14 now. We're going to talk about Cuadrado when he was at Fiorentina. This guy, again, 5-star skills, unbelievably quick, great dribbling. You could honestly leave him in your team the entire length of the game. You couldn't do that anymore. You know, from FIFA sort of 18, 19 onwards, you couldn't do that. Barbo is one of those players in FIFA 14 that emerged from nowhere. Again, this sort of spills into FIFA 15 as well. And it's going to be the same for our next two players, to be fair. But this was before he moved to Roma. When he moved to Roma in FIFA 15, that's when things started getting serious because, of course, Dumbia also moved to Roma. Roma head of recruitment obviously was playing FIFA at the time and thought, you know what, we need pace and we need sweaty players. Let's go for Barbo, let's go for Dumbia, and let's complete that by also signing Gervinho. Those three up front used to have like a 4-3-3, and everyone used to use those three at the front. They were just everywhere through FIFA 15. And we've already spilled into FIFA 15 now. There are a few for FIFA 14 that I could have mentioned, but those were the main ones. Coentrao, awful on paper. That does not look like a good card at all, but everybody used him. Every single person had him in their team. Whether it would have been for chemistry links or whether he was just that good, I can't quite remember, but everybody had this guy from 13 to 15. Paul Pogba is a player that I've been told was used an awful lot. I can't really remember him. When he was at Juventus, 83 rated, I can't imagine he would have been that expensive. I mean, yeah, sure, a little bit of a price tag, but in FIFA 15, he would not have been through the roof expensive. One of our only, in fact, I think our only informed to speak of in this video is going to be Freddie Guarin from FIFA 15. I remember having this guy. He wasn't expensive. He was about 20-25k if memory serves, but he was just really, really good. I mean, so well-rounded, really overpowered. Again, one of those cards that you could put in your team and leave there till the end of the game. Torre is one that is, I think, a lot of people would have gone for him. He would have been expensive, but it would have been almost like an end game card. Even though it doesn't look like it now, back in FIFA 15, this was one that everyone would aspire to get. Moving on to FIFA 16 with Raja Nainggolan. This guy has always had a very good card, a very well-rounded card. And FIFA 16 was absolutely no exception. I think he went on to get a team of the season either that year or the year after. But either way, Nainggolan's cards are always really good. Abate, this again could go back to FIFA 13, possibly even further back than that again. But I've taken it from FIFA 16 because, well, we had a lack of cards for FIFA 16, really. But Abate was one of those fullbacks that was just used in every single team Easy for links, really fast. Ramirez is that player that I said linked to Alexandre Pato when he moved to Chelsea, gave that hyperlink. But Ramirez is essentially like the Fred of a few seasons ago. Maybe even Kante, but nowhere near as high rated. Just a really good, fast, overpowered defender. This is more me than anybody else, but Al-Shahrani's Team of the Season card was so good. I had him in every single team. I actually used his, was it a silver or bronze card a lot, and then when he got a Team of the Season, I lost my mind. Let's move on to FIFA 17. Hector Bellerin, who remembers this guy? Again, on paper, if you just block out the pace, he has nothing going for him. That's an awful card. But everybody used him because of that pace. He was electric. Now, moving on to another player from FIFA 17 that I accidentally discarded, Jack Butland. This one, of course, is footies. I don't really recall that many people using this compared to the base card. Jack Butland was essentially the Nick Pope of FIFA 21 or FIFA 17. He was just everywhere. Everybody used him. Moving on to another Premier League player, Marouane Fellaini. A lot of you might not remember this, but it was, again, he was everywhere. He was in everybody's teams. Because he was tall and strong, he had that ability to, and it was suited to the meta. Just overused player. Another Man United player that was used an awful lot, and he had a very high price, even toward the back end of the game, was Anthony Martial. Great pace, great dribbling. Not necessarily very good anywhere else on paper, but still did command a very high price tag, even throughout the game. Renato Sanches was a player that I think started maybe the year before, but this was when he started getting used in everybody's team. He was one of those, like, almost like a Sissoko type player, you know, where everybody buys him and he's like 40k even though he's a 78 rated card. Next up is a player that had 2 Player of the Months this year, which was FIFA 17, and Heung-min Son had an 84 and then he had an 89. There was a long gap between the two, but the 84 was used an awful lot because it was really cheap. The 89 was a lot more expensive, but again, everybody used it. This was definitely like a Team of the Season style card. Moving on to FIFA 18. Timo Werner. Who remembers this? Probably, I don't know. FIFA 18 was one of those FIFAs that sort of flew by and didn't really... It was the low-driven year. Remember that, when everyone just kept scoring low-drivens? Timo Werner with great pace, great dribbling, has scored loads of low-drivens for me. Bakayoko, when he was at Chelsea, was again like the Sissoko or the Renato Sanches type player, where he was really expensive. He's quite low rated. On paper doesn't look like anything special, but in game was an absolute monster. Let's move on to probably one of the most overused strikers in recent memory, and that is Gabriel Jesus. This guy's low drivens were magical. Again, everyone's low drivens were magical, but everybody used this guy. I can't remember how many special cards he had that year. It was quite a lot, though. Moving on to Dembele. Now, this is kind of from FIFA 18 up until even the present day. This guy is always a good buy to pick up. You know, 5-star, really, really fast, great dribbling, can score goals with both feet. Really handy to have. Moving on to FIFA 19. This, of course, was the El Tornado cross meta. Mahrez was sensational. He had quite a few informs. I remember I kept getting him as a red. Every single weekend league, I'd pick up a red Mahrez. It was crazy, but he was really good at finesse shots. Gareth Bale's Team of the Year nominee. I mean, you didn't have to have the Team of the Year nominee, but this was the one that I picked up through an SBC, if you remember correctly. It was about 350k. A lot of people called it overpriced, but then the meta fell into place, and these two together, Zlatan Ibrahimovic and Gareth Bale, El Tornado cross from one to the other. You could have Ronaldo on the other wing as well. It was glorious. Not a lot of people liked that meta. I loved it. I really enjoyed it, especially when EA released this. They brought out a Peter Crouch End of an Era card, and my god did I have fun with that. In that meta as well, I will never see the likes of those days again. Hopefully, Peter Crouch can get himself an icon card in FIFA 22. I really hope he does. Oh my god, the things I would do. Going back to FIFA 20, a lot of you will remember this, of course. Eder Militao is essentially the Joe Gomez of FIFA 20. Everybody used him, even toward the end of the game. Then they gave him flashback cards, and people used those. Just one of those stupidly overpowered players. This is more me than anybody else again, I think. Oh, like the Al-Shahrani card. This was just a card that I remember being everywhere, and everybody used it. I used it. He was really fast. He scored loads of goals against me. It was a really frustrating card to play against. Mendy's Futmas card. A lot of people thought he would get one this year, or some sort of special card. He hasn't had one, which is just crazy, even though he's still really expensive considering what he is. 85 rated Futmas card, though. Everybody did it. Everybody had it. Really overpowered. Sissoko last year emerged as one of those Bakayoko, Renato Sanches type players, and even this FIFA has still commanded a high price point and has been used in in teams. Even now I see Sissoko in some teams. And of course, it wouldn't be a generational video without talking about Ryan Kent from last year. He was terrifying to play against. There's definitely a few players I've left out here, definitely a few that I've missed. And, you know, when you sit down and you actually try and compile a list, your mind goes blank and you do really struggle to think of things. So if you can think of any that I've left out that aren't silver and that are from FIFA 12 to FIFA 20, feel free to let me know. There are definitely some I've left out from FIFA 12, but records are a little bit, I don't know, sketchy going back that far. My mind does not go back that far, so you're going to need to help me out there. I will do a video dedicated to silvers, so feel free to leave the suggestions for those in the comments. And I will do probably a video talking about the most overpowered players in FIFA 21. I didn't really want to include those because we are currently here now, but if you can think of a player who in 5 or 6 years' time, we're going to look back on and say, wow, remember him in FIFA 21? He was an animal. Feel free to let me know in the comments. If you have enjoyed that video and you want to see more of this type of thing, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help me a lot. Subscribe to the channel for new, and until the next time, goodbye.